taint of corruption is no barrier to U.S. visa. Several times a year, Teodoro Ngma arrives at the doorstep of the United States from his home in Equatorial Guinea, on his way to his $35 million estate in Malibu, Calif., his fleet of luxury cars, his speedboats and private jet. And he is always let into the country. The nation's doors are open to Mr. Abeng, the Forest and Agriculture Minister of Equatorial Guinea and the son of its president, even though federal law enforcement officials believe that most if not all of his wealth comes from corruption related to the extensive oil and gas reserves discovered more than a decade and a half ago off the coast of his tiny West African country, according to Internal Justice Department and Immigration and Customs Enforcement documents. And they are open despite a federal law and a presidential proclamation that prohibit corrupt foreign officials and their families from receiving American visas. The measures require only credible evidence of corruption, not a conviction of it. Susan Pittman, a spokeswoman for the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement in the State Department, said she was prohibited from discussing specific visa decisions. But other former and current State Department officials said Equatorial Guinea's close ties to the American oil industry were the reason for the lax enforcement of the law. Production of the country's nearly 400,000 barrels of oil a day is dominated by American companies like ExxonMobil, Hess and Marathon. Of course it's because of oil, said John Bennett, the United States ambassador to Equatorial Guinea from 1991 to 1994, adding that Washington has turned a blind eye to the Abeng's corruption and repression because of its dependence on the country for natural resources. He noted that officials of Zimbabwe are barred from the United States. Both countries are severely repressive, said Mr. Bennett, who is now a senior foreign affairs officer for the State Department in Baghdad. But if Zimbabwe had Equatorial Guinea's oil, Zimbabwean officials wouldn't still be blocked from the U.S. The fact that someone like Mr. Abeng continues to travel freely here suggests strongly that the State Department is not yet applying the law as vigorously as Congress intended, Mr. Leahy said. The law was partly inspired by the accusations of corruption surrounding Mr. Abeng's family and the Equatorial Guinean government, Mr. Leahy's staff said. There are many instances of corrupt foreign officials plundering the natural resources of their countries for their own use while their people starve, Mr. Leahy said. The law states clearly that if you do that, you are no longer welcome in the United States. Daniel Whitman, who retired in September as the Deputy Director of the Office of Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs in the Bureau of African Affairs at the State Department, agreed that the law should be used more forcefully. We just seem to lack the backbone to use this prohibition, Mr. Whitman said. In the rare cases it is used, no one at State was willing to talk about it. When asked how many times the laws have been used to bar corrupt foreign officials from entering the country, State Department officials declined to answer, citing privacy reasons, though Ms. Pittman said thousands of visas had been denied to corrupt officials using other legal means. A 2007 State Department report said the presidential proclamation, signed by President George W. Bush in 2004, had been used dozens of times. A State Department official who handles corruption investigations said that while the measures were important tools, the department as a matter of policy did not want to reveal the number of times they had been used because it would show that the number was actually quite small. The official asked not to be identified because of departmental rules barring public comment. The Justice Department memorandum, dated September 4, 2007, and obtained by the New York Times, said the government believed Mr. Abeng's assets were derived from extortion, theft of public funds or other corrupt conduct. From April 2005 to April 2006, the memorandum said, Mr. Abeng funneled at least $73 million into the United States, using shell corporations and offshore bank accounts to launder the money and ultimately buy his Malibu estate and a luxury jet. The document identified several wire transfers by Mr. Abeng from 2005 and 2006, beginning with a bank in Equatorial Guinea, then going to the Central Bank de France and landing in American accounts at Wachovia, Bank of America and UBS. In one 6-week period in 2006, Mr. Abeng transferred $33,799,799.99 to the United States, it said, which was used to buy a Gulfstream V-jet. Part of his wealth, the document said, comes from a revolutionary tax that Mr. Abeng placed on timber. Instead of sending the payments to the Treasury of Equatorial Guinea, Mr. Abeng, who was considered likely to be a successor to his father, has insisted that the payments be made directly to him, it said.